Good evening and welcome. The Board of Education of Cleveland County meeting for Monday, July 25th, 2022 is called to order. And this evening we have Pastor Scott Whitney and Pastor Jose from East Gold Street Wesleyan to provide our invocation. Pastor.
Mr. Chairman, before Pastor prays, I'd like to take just a second to introduce him to the group, if I could.
Yes.
He comes to us from Santa Clara, Cuba, last September to be a church planting pastor working through our church in Kings Mountain. He is officially launching next month a church called Nuevo Pacto, New Covenant Wesleyan Church for Hispanics. And tonight we have the honor of having him pray for us in his native language, Espanol.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Señor, gracias. La bendición tuya repose sobre este lugar. Agradecemos tu presencia porque sabemos que estás en todo lugar que cumple un propósito, y este lugar cumple el propósito de enseñar y de bendecir la infancia y la juventud de esta nación. Bendecimos este distrito escolar. Declaramos tu presencia sobre cada uno de los maestros y líderes, y así, Señor, tú no faltes. Tu cobertura esté sobre de ellos. Líbranos de peligros. Libra a los niños de todo incidente negativo. Que tu mano de poder esté guardando cada una de las escuelas de este condado. Bendecimos en el nombre de Jesús todo este condado escolar y te damos a ti toda la gloria y tu cuidado sobre de ellos. En el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Amen. Thank you, gentlemen. We wish you the best in your new church work. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hunt.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have some special recognition, and I'd like to call on Mr. David Bless.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Fisher, thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight to recognize some of our student athletes. Asked Mr. Weiss to put the, there we go, thank you very much. This spring semester, we had a total of 441 student athletes. 27 out of our 28 teams had over a 3.0 GPA. We had 6 conference champions. And just to go sport by sport, you see baseball there. Shelby was the tops with a 3.98. All 4 of our teams over a 3.5. Kings Mountain and Burns won the conference championship. In softball, when you look at our softball GPAs, Burns was number 1, 4.08. And looking at Burns won the conference championship. I want to mention Crest, 3.7. They won the conference, finished second in the Western region. I was at the championship game. They got beat 1-0 in 13 innings. It was a fantastic atmosphere at Crest. Women's soccer, Kings Mountain, 15 student athletes, 4.15. Shelby, 4.13. All 4 of our schools good GPAs with women's soccer. Men's golf, outstanding seasons for Shelby. We had one golfer at Shelby, but he had almost a 4.8 GPA, and he was the player of the year in the conference. Kings Mountain, 11 student athletes, GPA over 4.0. They won the conference and finished first in the Western region. Look at Crest. They finished second in the Western region with over a 3.0 also. Moving on to men's tennis, maybe our men's tennis athletes should do tutoring. All 4 schools, 3.9 and above. Kings Mountain tops, 12 student athletes with 4.28. Burns, 4.25. Women's track, Shelby was tops at 3.77. Looking at Burns, student athletes, they have 27 girls running track, and Burns won the conference championship. Kings Mountain, men's track, 41 student athletes with a 3.537. All Burns, Shelby also over 3.0. Some other notes I want you to know. The High School Athletic Association recognized Crest men's cross country, Crest men's tennis, and cheerleading, the football cheerleading and the basketball cheerleading for the highest GPA for their sport in 3A. So that's across the state. Fantastic. Also, Kings Mountain, wanted to note them as well. Finished second in football, wrestling, and women's tennis in 3A for the highest GPA. Sportsmanship in Cleveland County Schools athletics is very important. Crest, Kings Mountain, and Shelby were ejection-free for the last school year. At this time, I want to ask Coach Jim Taylor to come forward. We have an award each year that is given to one of our high schools for the highest GPA for all varsity student athletes. This is an unweighted GPA. This award is named for Coach Taylor. Coach Taylor served as the head football coach and athletic director at Shelby High. He's also the first county athletic director, Cleveland County Schools. During his time in athletics, Coach Taylor was extremely successful in terms of wins and championships, but was also successful in teaching athletes that the importance of performing in the classroom. I'm super proud of all four of our schools. All four of our schools total for varsity athletes had over a 3.2 GPA. Our first and second place school had over a 3.4. Kings Mountain High School was our winner this year. I'd like to ask Dr. Dustin Bridges and Matt Bridges, excuse me, Dr. Dustin Moorhead and Matt Bridges to come forward. Coach Taylor, would you present them with your award, please?
Mr. Pless, I would like to say Mr. Hunt got a little excited when he saw one of the most famous Shelby football coaches come up here. He thought he had on a Crest shirt over there, so he got a little excited. I had to point out that that's Green Bay.
That's that Crest C.
You know it's Green Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for being here. Next, we'd like to recognize any guests. Do we have any principals or assistant principals? I think they have already left. Do we have any teachers' assistants, or teachers, NCAA representatives, or any other elected officials? All right. Next, we have adoption of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to adopt. Second.
Motion by Mr. Fitch, second by Mr. Hunt. Any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Next is public participation. Ms. Bridges, did we just have the two? Okay. First speaker is Nanette Linhart.
Good evening, Chairman Robert Queen, rest of the board. My name is Nanette Linhart, live in Shelby. And if I may do so, I'd like to read first the Amendment 1 of our U.S. Constitution, which is speaking on mostly freedom of speech. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, you know that I've been in front of this board almost 2 years speaking on CRT, socialism, communism, the pornography that's in our schools, the books. So I'm a taxpayer in this county, state, and USA, and I petitioned the board that I want my tax dollars refunded on every line item that is paying for communism, socialism, ideology, pornography, books and videos that are present for our students in our schools and that are on every student laptop. I'm giving this board, Superintendent Brian Hunnell, and all administrators supporting these sick and perverted agendas a vote of no confidence. Follow the money. Citizens of Cleveland County, call, email, speak against what this school board is feeding our students. Question it. Question. That's all we ask. Question. That's all I have. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Ronnie Gregg.
Good evening. After doing some research, I found out that in the state of North Carolina that 1 out of 5 children will be faced with hunger daily. Now, we can't fix this problem, but we can fix our lunch program in Cleveland County. Last month, one of you board members stated that no one will remember the names of the children that were tragically shot in Texas, and unfortunately, that's true. However, we have staff members and teachers right here in Cleveland County that can tell you the names of the children that come to school hungry. And that's a shame. And I think we've let them down by our meal program that we have. Now, 1 out of 5 may not, may be the state level, but I'm afraid it's much higher right here in our own backyard. The information that I handed out to you is from Greenville County Schools and their nutritionist of 15 years, and how he changed lives of children in 101 schools. And that school system is the 44th largest in the nation. He was successful because of the support that he got from the school board and the superintendent. Their slogan is building better graduates. Here in Cleveland County, we seem to be focused more on athletics, and we'll go out of the way to hire a winning coach for a team here, and then we fall short when it comes to nutritional values. I don't know if we posted the job for the nutritionist or not, but we need to hire a nutritionist that has knowledge of how to prepare food for these kids that they're going to eat. And that may require a grant to get our kitchens back up to speed, from what I understand. Joe Urban has given an open invitation for anybody to come, and he'll show you how he gives $5 million a year back to the school system. He also can show you how the state guidelines for reimbursement from the FSDA according to the SFA, and he has 23 Title I schools, but he still feeds every school the same meals, and he gets funded for it. Now, I've heard that North Carolina don't get funded like this, but I've done a little bit of research on that. Prove me wrong. North Carolina's funded the same way. I gave you a menu and a sign-up sheet, and I need to get it back by August the 2nd, if you're willing to go to meet with Joe. Just remember Cleveland County's watching each one of you guys today. And they're going to want to know what you guys are planning on doing, if you're going to go see this program or not. Don't hold your hostility against
Mr. Grigg,
me
your time has
for not
expired.
going. Make sure you make that trip.
Before we move on, I'm going to take just a moment of personal privilege to address this CRT issue again. Personally, I think any program or theory that teaches people that they're superior or inferior, oppressed or oppressor due to race or color of their skin is just ridiculous. Now, Ms. Lenhart, I appreciate your advocacy against the tenets of CRT, but the information you've brought each month, you didn't bring any tonight, but each time the information you bring applies to other school systems. I've asked repeatedly for you folks to bring information that applies to Cleveland County schools, and you've not done so. No, your speaking time's over with. I have the floor now. So anybody's welcome. If there are any homework assignments, syllabuses, anything that you have that you think is inappropriate, I challenge you to bring it to that school principal and work your way up to the board. There is a process to do that, and I welcome anyone to do that. So again, I stand by our folks here in Cleveland County Schools that we are not teaching those sorts of things to our kids. So we'll move on. Next, we have approval of the minutes. We do have 5 sets.
Just as a procedural point.
Yes, sir.
The chair might entertain a motion to accept as information a handout from the previous speaker. So if there's one of you not elected to make a motion to accept as information a handout that was given to you by Mr. Grigg, said handout will be given to the clerk if approved.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
What's the pleasure?
I'll make the motion to accept.
I second.
Hold on just a second. Let me get so that was a motion by Mr. Humphries,
I think Joel will be.
and you did second, didn't you, Mr. Shore? Second by Mr. Shore. So the motion is to accept the information provided by Mr. Grigg into the record. Is that the right wording?
As
As information, okay. Any questions or comments? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand.
I got a couple questions. I think we need to look into it,
Okay,
100%.
The item before us is whether to accept this as information.
Okay,
So, any questions on the motion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Okay, approval of the minutes. We have 5 sets of minutes.
I've got another question.
On what?
Would you ask us for a question then, if anybody had anything, if you wasn't going to let me speak?
The motion was to accept the information into the board.
Well, that wasn't what you said.
Well, we're moving on. Approval of the minutes are 5 sets of minutes. We have the minutes of June 13th closed session, June 13th business and closed session, June 29th was a special called closed session, June 29th closed session with attorney consultation, and then July 18th closed session. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept all 5 as a group.
And I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Humphries. Second by Mr. Glover. Any questions or comments? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Next, we'll move on to committee reports. First is Finance and Personnel. Mr. Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Personnel Committee met on July 22nd at 10:30. Jamie Courier provided a child nutrition update. Mrs. Courier highlighted some of the changes coming to the child nutrition for the 2022-23 school year. Included in these changes are menu updates, some increased serving sizes for secondary students, and return to many pre-COVID practices. Mrs. Curry reminded the committee that Cleveland County Schools has 13 schools that qualify for CEP eligibility. CEP stands for Community Eligibility Provision. In other words, in layman's terms, where I think people need to understand, we have 13 schools in our district that qualify for free and reduced lunch. The other 15 schools do not qualify for CEP, will have free and reduced lunch options, but families must complete the free and reduced lunch forms. So parents, if you're listening, we're really trying to get this information out. If you're wanting to apply for free or reduced lunch in one of the schools that does not qualify, please fill out the form, and I believe that form is online. Okay. Mrs. Currier also explained the concept of reimbursement meals and federal reimbursements and funding. Dr. Fisher and Dan Karpinski provided an update on the recently approved state budget. State budget highlighted included raises for teachers, certified and classified staff, supplement bonus money for teachers, school safety grants, and increased needs-based capital grant funding. For non-certified personnel, the budget provides the greater of a 4% raise or a $15 per hour minimum. The district's finance team is currently working on updating pay scales and anticipates providing an update district budget by October. Dr. Fisher and Mr. Kapinski noted concerns about the loss of purchasing power of district funded created by the increased cost of doing business. As the cost of doing business continues to sharply increase, the district will be looking at creative avenues to balance the budget. Ms. Jennifer Wampler provided a brief personnel update and highlighted vacant positions in the district. Dr. Wampler stated that she feels good about where we are and that she was confident we would be ready to start school in a few weeks. Dr. Fisher highlighted that the district was beginning to look at experience-based credits for employees as outlined in the district's strategic plan. I just want to say this, that Dr. Wampler feels that we're going to be able to start school fully staffed. We are one of the few school systems in the state that's probably going to be able to do that. Teacher positions are hard to find. Well, people that won't teach in positions is hard to find. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. Our next meeting will be August the 5th, 10:30, here at the administrative offices. Thank you.
All right, we have one action item, Mr. Blanton.
On the finance report, didn't the state also say that it will go back to July 1
For
in other words, the pay and stuff will go back to July 1?
The pay scales are effective July 1.
Right, okay. And we'll go back to the food. I've done a little more checking on this food, and the state will pick up. We were told, I guess I need to wait till operations there but he mentioned food too, so I could bring it up here and be right on target. But as long as we're following the state guidelines, we can fix anything we want. But we were told that that the board would have to add to it if we wanted something, if we wanted to add to the food. Well, as long as we're doing, I've talked to a couple of school districts today here in North Carolina, but no matter whether it's North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, wherever, federal government, in other words, they're going to pay. And as long as we're meeting those ingredients, we can feed something besides carrots and broccoli, and fix stuff from scratch that children's going to eat. What schools do we have? I'm asking this question to find out. What schools do we have that we've got the equipment in that we can fix meals in?
First, let me address a couple of things. The information you got about fix anything we want is not correct. The dietary guidelines are set by the federal government.
As long as if we can fix anything we want, is what the lady said.
No.
But the board
no.
would have to pay for it.
You've got to let me finish and answer the question.
Okay.
Because we discussed this in operations, you were sitting there. So, to meet the free and reduced lunch guidelines. So those are set by the federal government, and we have to prepare meals for that. There are 5 food groups. When a child comes through, they have to have 3 of those 5 food groups to qualify as a free or reduced lunch, period. If they don't have one of those 3, they're asked to go back and pick that up. Now, we can't control whether they eat it or not, but we make sure they get the amount of food they're supposed to get. They can get all 5 items if they like, but they've got to get at least 3. If they don't do that, we can't count that as a free or reduced lunch, and we don't get reimbursed for that. We pay everything ahead of time and get reimbursed by the federal government. So it's coming out of our pocket to start with. So we have to meet those guidelines or we don't get the funding. So,
Well, then there are a lot of school districts in this state then's not getting no funding then, because I've checked with them and they say they're doing it and they're getting funding.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address that I feel that you're correct, that there are a lot, but we are a Tier 1 county. And probably some of these other counties that have a higher tax base and are bringing in more funding probably supplement that. Our cost is $4 million a year for school lunches, which the federal government reimburses that. I'd love to feed them all ribeye steaks and filet mignons, but the government will not reimburse us for that based on sodium content or whatever the case. So for us to come up with that, we would have to go to the county commission to ask for more money, or we could say, we're going to give you a ribeye steak or a filet mignon, and we're going to let you pay for it, but then that's not going to be fair to the kids. We have 13 schools that get free and reduced lunch.
throughout the whole school.
Throughout the whole thing. So what do we tell those kids?
One of the school districts I was talking to, they don't have any schools.
That's my point.
No, they've got them, they got the free and reduced, but they're fixing what they want, what they're eating. Okay,
I would just
I'll have that
encourage.
information next week.
Okay, I would just encourage to sit down with our superintendent and the lady in charge of the food.
And I believe Dr. Fisher has some information on food nutrition during his update. And we do have a new nutrition director, a new nutritionist, and they have expressed a lot of good ideas of things that are coming, and I'm looking forward to giving them a chance to do their job. We've got one action item out of the Finance and Personnel, and that's the personnel report. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Fitch, second by Mr. Hunt. Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 8-1. Next is educational programs. Mr. Humphries.
Yes. So the Education Program Committee met on July the 22nd at 10 o'clock. Tamara Goforth shared an overview of the Wit and Wisdom curriculum along with the data to support the need for adopting a consistent elementary ELA curriculum. She noted the quotes for the 3 components: Wit and Wisdom ELA core curriculum, GEODS, decodable, which is decodable readers, and the professional development. The instructional team is recommending a complete district adoption for the 23-24 school year. An early implementation option is available for interested schools for the 22-23 school year. The committee unanimously supported the team's recommendation for approval. Ms. Goforth also presented the Reading Horizons contract for review and approval. The additional kits are for expansion at multiple grade levels in certain sites and into 3rd grade classrooms. The district has seen a high level of success with Reading Horizons implementation. The committee unanimously supported the team's recommendation for approval for Reading Horizons. Dr. Hunnell presented the APEX contract for review and approval. APEX is used by our high schools for credit recovery. APEX costs have increased each year, so this is a 3-year contract. The 3-year contract allows us to keep our per year price the same. So the total for that will be $97,175 for the full 3 years, each year being $32,025. The committee unanimously supported the team's recommendation for approval. The Wit and Wisdom, Reading Horizons, and APEX recommendations are on tonight's agenda. Wendy Fitch provided an update on EC recruitment and retention bonuses. Last year, the 21-22 recruitment and retention bonuses were implemented for EC teachers. The bonus was $3,000 for a returning teacher and $2,000 for a new hire. The bonuses were paid with federal funds. Funds are available for the 22-23 school year, and the district plans to continue with the bonus plan. EC teacher vacancies are of concern. At the time of our meeting, the district has 4 EC teacher vacancies. Mrs. Fitch also updated the committee about CCS GET. These people are awesome with acronyms, so that stands for Growing Excellent Teachers. The kickoff group will be 5. All of these employees want to be special education teachers, so this program will help them get their credentials to do this for us. They are making a commitment to work for CCS upon completion of the program. Mr. Gilmore provided a PALS update, and he's going to do a presentation on that shortly, so I won't go through all that. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. Our next regular Educational Program Committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, September the 2nd at 10:30. We will have an additional meeting on August the 5th at 10:30 to go over some Head Start materials that will have to be voted on at our next meeting.
Thank you. We have several action items in the educational programs. First is the IABS contracts. You'll remember we approved these last year. This is for 2 contract employees for DPI. These amounts are paid to Cleveland County Schools to cover their salaries, benefits, and travel expenses. The first one is $149,785.43. The second is $140,455.37. Again, those amounts are paid to Cleveland County Schools, and we pocket about $5,000, I think, in indirect cost. That comes from committee, recommended for approval. Needs no second. Any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Next is the Great Minds Wit and Wisdom curriculum. This comes in 3 parts. I think the educational program is trying to catch up with operations for spending money this month, but the first section is for print and digital curriculum. That is $724,280.67. The second part is that geodes? Am I saying it? Geodes. That's $628,147.69. And the last section is professional development. That's $76,125. So the total is $1,428,553.36. And I believe that will come out of ESSER funds. Is that correct? That's the learning loss dollars in ESSER funds. And just to be clear with the board, this is covering the 22-23 and 23-24 school years. We'll have certain schools that adopt the program this year, and the remaining will adopt next year. So this is somewhat of a not to exceed approval for this year and next year. It does come from the committee as a recommendation for approval. Any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Next, we have the Reading Horizons Phonics. That comes from committee, recommended for approval. The total on that is $197,381. Is that ESSER funding also, or regular? Yes, okay. So that comes from ESSER funding also. Any questions or discussion?
Is this changing our curriculum somewhat that we're doing with this reading and math to help our children out
We've been
going
using,
to a different level, because what we've been using hadn't been working?
well, I disagree on that. We've been using Reading Horizons. It's a very good program. The Wit and Wisdom program is new, and we'll have a kind of a slow rollout, if you will, where we have a certain number of schools. That list is still being determined.
Okay.
Any other questions on the Reading Horizons? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. Last is the Apex Learning Program. That's $97,175. Is that ESSER? Or is that regular curriculum? A regular curriculum funding, okay. Any questions or discussion? That also comes from committee.
Can you explain a little bit what that, exactly what that does?
Dr. Fisher?
Yes, Mr. Blanton, thank you. Apex Learning is a program that we've used in our high schools for several years for course recovery. And so if a student is unsuccessful the first time they take the class, they use that program through Apex to recover that class. It's got multiple different facets to that. Dr. Hunnell was absent tonight. He can kind of go into that a little deeper, but the majority of Apex is used for course recovery. And going back, Mr. Queen was exactly right. We've been using Reading Horizons for the last several years. Have really high level of success with Reading Horizons. Very promising what's going on there. The Wit and Wisdom is new, so we're excited about the opportunities there.
Any other questions or discussion? Those in favor of the Apex Learning Program, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 9-0. I'd like to call on Mr. Gilmore for our PALS update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Queen, Board of Education, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm excited to provide an update on our PALS initiative. First, let me reiterate to the public that PALS, which stands for Partners Aligned for Literacy Success, is an initiative by Cleveland County Schools to raise literacy rates in Cleveland County. We will do this by focusing on our district goal that all third grade students will meet or exceed grade level expectations by the year 2030. We are supporting teachers with training and providing consistent curriculum resources. We will also offer engaging opportunities and resources for students and families to encourage reading time at home. To do this successfully, we welcome and rely on community support. At the beginning of the 2022-23 school year, our teachers will promote PALS time in their classrooms. Each teacher, pre-K through intermediate school, will receive a PALS time poster to display and use to guide PALS implementation in the classroom. They will receive resources and strategies to make PALS time an opportunity for motivating students, developing relationships, improving reading skills, and to celebrate success. Throughout this past year, we have begun garnering community support, I'm happy to report, from several businesses that have invested in book nooks for their establishments or sponsored book nooks for organizations. Book nooks are filled with reading material for children and adults and placed in waiting areas for families to enjoy while they wait for or receive services. I want to publicly thank our inaugural PAL Book Nook partners for investing in the children of Cleveland County. They are, as you can see on the screen, Tim Ward, owner of Ward's Barber and Salon, Tim Nickel of Nickel Insurance Investments, who sponsored the Book Nook for the Boys and Girls Club of Cleveland County, Brian Husky, owner of DBA Encore Cuts and Styles, Victor Smith, owner of Ebony and Ivory Hair Designers 2, and Yolanda Harris, owner of Free to Be Natural Hair Academy. These small business owners believe this initiative is good for the community and have committed to encouraging patrons to put their phones away and choose to read a book instead. Individuals and businesses have also begun to donate to the PALS Fund through the Cleveland County Educational Foundation. These donations include monies for book nooks and general donations that will provide families with small home libraries, financial support for economically disadvantaged students at book fairs, books for teachers to give as rewards, and other literacy-related student needs. In addition, we plan to place a book nook in the Women's Rescue Mission, and we invite community centers and faith-based organizations to get involved by putting book nooks in their children's facilities. Others might consider what these partners have done. For example, Clearwater Paper purchased a book for every kindergartner and first grade student at James Love Elementary. Their leadership team read to each class and delivered the books to the students. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Department has decided to do the same for Washington Elementary. They will deliver books to kindergartner and first grade students once school begins, and they plan to do the same for Township 3 Elementary later in the school year. A few other entities have come on board with PALS or have committed to donating funds. You see them listed on the screen. Individuals can also get involved as well. Local authors Susan and Jeff Jones, for example, contributed 2 copies of their published children's book to every elementary school. And this is a book about a foster dog that can be used to help children who are in foster care. In addition, I have received calls from individuals volunteering to read in classrooms. We also have a set on the stage just behind you where we are video recording individuals reading books as they did during Black History Month. Elementary teachers use these recordings during class reading period for students to enjoy. Lastly, we have also partnered with Mount Calvary Baptist Church's Community Life Center at the site of the Old West Shelby School campus. Working through a Community Builders Grant with the Dover Foundation, we will provide training and curriculum support for the Hegarty Literacy, Numerous Early Learning, and Eureka Math program for 3 and 4-year-olds, as well as after-school enrichment opportunities targeting literacy, math, and STEM work related to coding for children in K through 5 from 2 elementary schools and in the Robertsdale community. As we go forward, plans are to seek involvement of high school students in organizations such as Junior Civitan, Beta Club, athletic teams, and students in the occupational course of study. And we want to solicit their help in, again, reading to classrooms and building relationships with the younger students. We will also continue to make presentations to organizations and businesses as opportunities arise. And I think I left at each one of your places a copy of the little commitment card that we use when we do those presentations, and they have been quite successful. We've gotten donations on the spot. We've gotten people who have wanted us to reach out to them because they're interested in becoming a part of the PALS initiative. We want to expand the importance of literacy throughout the county. This is a wonderful cause. So we ask everyone, young children, teens, and adults, to read at least 15 minutes a day and discuss what they read with family, friends, and coworkers. Currently, I will note that there is not a PALS page on our school's website, and we'll be making that addition soon. In the meantime, if any individual, business, or group wants to join the PALS initiative, you may call me at 704-476-8078. And that is my report. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Gilmore?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just actually as a point of personal privilege, I'd like to commend Mr. Gilmore for a fantastic job he has done. He's taken the lead on this and getting this out in the community where it has to be. It don't work if it's not in the community. And I'd also like to mention these two sitting at the back, Tamara and Laura back here, for creating this PALS program from scratch. You know, this came from that whole 90% reading goal book I read. I walk in one day and these people are handing me stuff and I'm like, wow. You know, I mean, it blew me away. I mean, it far exceeded any vision I ever had for it. I'm excited about it, appreciate y'all's work on this. I think that this will pay bukus of dividends in the future for our students, so thank y'all so much.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Gilmore? Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Next, we have a Operations Committee. The Operations Committee met on July 22nd at 9 a.m. Dr. Wampler presented the capital projects report and reminded the committee that report included all the summer projects, and the year's completed projects would be removed before next month's report. We did discuss the cooling tower at Burns Middle School. That is on order, and we're awaiting it to arrive. We did discuss the Crest Middle cooling tower, and that one is still functioning properly. Dr. Wampler also provided an update on the CMTA heating and air projects. Mobile units are scheduled to be delivered and installed at the beginning of August. Heating and air pre-bid meetings are scheduled for August, and bids are scheduled to be released in the coming weeks. Meetings and tours of the schools are scheduled for potential contractors. As a part of the maintenance update, Dr. Wampler and Chip Childers highlighted the work that has been done at Elizabeth Elementary. All work at Elizabeth is scheduled to be completed on time. Mr. Childers gave a positive report on all summer projects and completion schedules. It was noted that it's been a very busy summer for our maintenance team, but also very productive. The stadium lights at Shelby High School and Crest High School are on pace to be installed prior to the beginning of the football season. A request was received from the Stone Group regarding a proposal to the City of Kings Mountain about rezoning the central school property in Kings Mountain. Since Cleveland County Schools is still the owner of the property, we have to sign off on their petition. After discussion, the committee unanimously approved the recommendation, and the request is on tonight's agenda. Jamie Courier provided a child nutrition update. Ms. Courier highlighted some of the changes coming to child nutrition for the 22-23 school year. Included in these changes are menu updates, some increased serving sizes for secondary students, and a return to many pre-COVID practices. Ms. Courier reminded the committee that Cleveland County Schools has 13 schools that qualify for the CEP eligibility. The other 15 schools that do not qualify will have free and reduced lunch options, but families must complete the form. Again, I'll reiterate what Mr. Shores said. If your child attends one of the 13 CEP schools, you get the free and reduced lunch automatically. You don't have to fill out a form. If you attend one of the other 15 schools, you will have to complete that form. It's available online. It'll be passed out the first week of school. Just want folks to know that it's just like it was before.
I'm reading them off so they'll know.
Okay.
That's the ones they had to fill it out.
All right. Mr. Shores handed me a list of the schools that are not CEP schools. So if your child attends this school, one of these schools, you'll have to fill out the form. So that's Bowling Springs Elementary, Burns High, Burns Middle, Cleveland Early College, Cleveland Innovation, Crest High, Crest Middle, Kings Mountain High, Kings Mountain Intermediate, Kings Mountain Middle, Shelby High, Shelby Middle, Springmore Elementary, Union Elementary, and West Elementary. So, and if anyone has any questions on that, you can contact the central office and we'll get you more information. Ms. Courier also explained the concept of reimbursed meals and federal reimbursements and funding. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next Operations Committee is scheduled for Friday, September 2nd at 9 a.m. Mr. Blank.
You said that form would be presented the first week of school. Are they going to eat the first week? Are they going to eat free?
They can get it for orientation. We'll have the forms available. They're ready now as far as I know.
Okay, but see, we announced the first week of school, so that form's not going to be approved or disapproved.
If they go online, it's automatic. It's done right then.
Okay. Well, we need to let the people know exactly, because if they go in that first week and expect to get that paper, well, are they going to get to eat?
Yeah, no child will be denied any food.
Okay.
We have the request for central school rezoning. That comes from committee recommended for approval. Is there any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 8-1. Next, we have our policy committee update. Mr. Humphries.
Yes, so the policy committee met on Tuesday, July the 19th at noon. Cleveland Early College High School Principal Amber Nichols shared about the Parent Information Project that she's working on along with Principal Chris Hall and Terry Bean as part of their doctoral coursework at Gardner-Webb University. Ms. Nichols highlighted the major topics of the Digital Resource Project, which includes a section on parents' rights and responsibilities with links to applicable board policy, a section on the Power School portal for information on grades, attendance, and student info, and a section called Did You Know? With common questions, answers, and resources. The goal is for this project to be ready before school starts for students in August. The committee was very impressed with the project and feels that it will be very beneficial for parents. Dr. Scholl provided an update on the process of moving the new board policies into board docs. The 3,000 section is complete. He is about halfway through the 4,000 section. Dr. Scholl is continuing to work through the process and will continue to update the committee at future meetings. The committee reviewed policies 3450 and 3145. No changes were recommended for policy 3105, which is homeschool dual enrollment for athletics. Multiple updates were discussed and recommended related to policy 3450, which is class rank, and were approved by the committee for a first read by the board. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next policy committee meeting is scheduled for August the 30th at high noon.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. We have 4 policies that are recommended for approval from the committee. Those were on first read at our last meeting. So the first one has 3 numbers to it. Policy 4334/5035/7345. That regards drones. Policy 4342 is student searches. Policy 4318 is use of wireless communication devices. And policy 5070/7350 is public records retention, release, and disposition. Those are the 4 up for approval. Again, coming from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions on any of those policies? If there's no objection, we'll take all 4 at once. Those in favor of adopting those 4 policies, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 9-0. There are several policies listed for first read. The first is policy 4130 is out of county admission. Policy 4700 and 4700R, what does that cover? I didn't have a title here. Student records. And policy 3450 is the class rank policy. So those are on the website. Anyone wants to see those, the revisions are there in red or yellow. All right, next we have the Safety Committee update. Mr. Fitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Safety Committee met on Wednesday, July the 20th at 12 o'clock. Dr. Fisher introduced the district's Executive Director of Exceptional Children, Wendy Fitch. Ms. Fitch spoke to the committee about the district's safety expectations and efforts related to students with disabilities. Ms. Fitch spoke about the district's extensive training and programmatic efforts to create healthy and safe environments for all of our students. Ms. Fitch discussed our procedures related to the appropriate use of restraint and required training. Rodney Borders was able to add some additional information as he was one of the district's original trainers. The committee thanked Ms. Fitch and her team for the continuing good work. Philip Lane, Shelby City Fire Chief, was present at the meeting and spoke about the agency's efforts with school safety. Mr. Lane stated that some of the information they had was dated and asked about procedures for getting current information. Dr. Scholl mentioned the school's online safety management system. Dr. Scholl highlighted that he had been working with Lieutenant Daniel Howell in the Sheriff's Office about getting them access. The safety management system is hosted by the state, and law enforcement and first responders are supposed to be able to have access. Once additional information is available, it will be shared with the committee. Cleveland County school staff provided summer updates. Sandy Hamrick provided a reminder about See Something, Say Something program. David Pless updated the committee on the traffic at Crest Middle, and that was discussed earlier in the year. Crest Middle has made some modifications to their drop-off procedures that will hopefully help with the morning traffic. Rodney Borders highlighted the Safe School grants that are a part of the recently approved state budget. Once the grant details are available, district staff will work to complete the grant application. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 31st at 12 noon.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Next, we have a superintendent's update. Dr. Fisher.
We're not voting on our vest. But we got a teacher at Kings Mountain Middle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll try to be brief. I don't have 62 slides or 62 minutes tonight, but do want to provide a few updates. We'll start with the budget. As you know, the state budget bill was passed by the House and Senate, was signed into law by the governor on Monday, July the 11th. A couple highlights there. Teachers got a 4.2 average increase per NCASA. Again, that's not across the board, that's average. The larger increases were lower in the scale. It did bring the starting salary scale up to $37,000. School administrators, assistant principals was an average of 3.4% raise. Principals was a 4% raise, pretty much across the board. There was some significant change in the growth calculations. If you remember, principal salaries are depending on the growth status of their schools. In the past, it's been 2 out of every 3 years. The new legislation just has it growth for the last year, so that will create some challenges for school districts as they go through that. Non-certified was the greater of a 4% raise or $15 an hour. So our folks have worked with the state pay tables. Again, this creates some situations like we've had in the teacher scale in which you have multiple years with the same rate of pay. That's happened at the teacher scale for a while, and it's still there at the teacher scale. If you look at the teacher scale, essentially from year 15 to 30, there's really no increase. There's large groups of pockets of that. So that is now going to really rear in the non-certified scale, but it is a $15 an hour minimum, or if they've already exceeded that, the greater of that and the 4% raise for non-certified. There was an allotment for teacher supplement and signing bonuses, so that's information that will come out. If you remember, we've had that last year. We were able to do a special supplement for teachers in the after Christmas last year, and so that money is in the budget there. So we'll work through our finance committee with that. This is a big one to recognize that ADM the held harmless was not included through COVID. We've had an ADM held harmless, which meant if our ADM went down, it didn't impact our funding, and so that is gone. So if our ADM has gone down from 2019, 2020, I said that the other day, didn't I? Then that will significantly impact our funding. So that is something that we definitely need to look out for and watch for, especially that's a 3-year gap there. So that early enrollment numbers will be something we definitely have to look at. There is increased funding for school safety grants that was mentioned in the safety committee. Our safety team is working through that information. There was additional needs-based public school capital fund grants, and that's great news, and I've sent you a copy of that that goes into our auditorium fund. Really, our financial responsibility for those auditoriums is the 5% match that we qualify for. So that's a great opportunity for our auditoriums. We're going to build 2 auditoriums for essentially $1.5 million. I'll take a 5%. We put in 5%, somebody else put in 95%. I'll take that all day. So that's good news for Cleveland County, Cleveland County Schools. I think that you guys mentioned in the budget meeting, there are some budget challenges for the future. The increased cost, I know in our personal budgets, the cost of items is increasing. From a school system perspective, the purchasing power of our dollar, it's not what it used to be. Obviously increasing cost. But things like retirement, hospitalization, those rates for employees are going up. And so the cost of employees, the cost of everything that we're doing is increasing. In a time where funding is flat, and if you look back a couple bullets up, if ADM is down, that means funding is down and costs are up. So that's not a good recipe as we continue to really look at our future budgets. And so we want to make sure we include that. I told Mr. Shores and in our budget meeting. That's something we've got to continue to have conversations about, so there are no surprises in terms of funding, especially from the state level. I would like to provide some updates on child nutrition. I know there's some previous conversations, so see if I can answer some of those questions. We did have a successful summer feeding program. That program is finished now. A great program to feed students in the summer. We did in several of the committee meetings, both in the Finance Committee and in the Operations Committee, talk about some upcoming opportunities excuse me, for our child nutrition, including but not limited to increasing the serving sizes, increased meal opportunities. Some of the restrictions that we had to use in the past are gone, so we can actually use an employee to serve that and then have to go in to the bags or covers where the condensation gets that impacts taste. So we're able to do some things that we haven't been able to do. We do have additional staffing. Our child nutrition team have had job fairs over the last couple of weeks, and it's been successful. So I will like to, kind of touch base on a couple of things that were said. We did approve tonight in your personnel report. You approved a new director of child nutrition, Jamie Courier. We're excited about having her on our team. I think she'll do a great job. We do have a new nutritionist. She ended this school year last year with us, but this is a great opportunity for her to really start this first year fresh. She's a recent graduate of Appalachian State University, and we're excited about the opportunities for child nutrition. I want to kind of highlight a few things that I think are important. Is the child nutrition program is a federal child nutrition program. It's a federal program. A lot of conversation about state requirements and state things, but child nutrition is a federal.
Go ahead.
Child nutrition is a federal program that's run by the USDA. In all school districts in North Carolina, the child lunch meal programs are enterprise funds. And what that simply means is that is an enterprise inside the big umbrella of Cleveland County Schools. So child nutrition is responsible for everything they do. They're an enterprise fund in that. In the upcoming year, that will be really our only enterprise fund in child nutrition. So again, when you hear a lot of things about states, that's really, you got to be careful of understanding that. It is a federal program. The vast majority of our dollars, and I would almost say all dollars for the federal lunch program are really federal dollars. We do get a few state dollars. And the state dollars, what happens is it covers the gap for kids that would have been reduced but now are free. For this year, there's no really reduced rate. We've always talked about free and reduced. So you've had free lunch students, you've had reduced lunch students, and you had full pay students. So this year, the state funds will cover that gap for the reduced students. So now this year, we'll have free and reduced students, and then we'll have regular pay students. So the state funding is just making the difference between that reimbursable rate. So it's important when we think about this to really think about federal guidelines, federal funding, not state things. We also want to talk about a reimbursable meal. And Mr. Queen illustrated and talked a few things in his update about what is a reimbursable meal. A reimbursable meal has a definition for breakfast, and it has a definition for lunch. And the reimbursable meal has to be served that way for us to get a federal reimbursement. So sometimes you see pictures of, a student only getting a sandwich. Well, that would not be a reimbursable meal. So that more than likely means that that student chose to only get that. For breakfast or for lunch, you have to get a certain number of items out of the different food groups. I know we talk about carrots, and a lot's being said about carrots, but you have to have a red orange vegetable. And we got an education, didn't we, Mr. Shores, about what red orange vegetables are. Well, what's one of the most common red orange vegetables that we eat? Carrots. And in the time of COVID, in the time of supply chains, what was an easy red orange vegetable for us to get? Carrots. We have to have a red orange vegetable. If we don't put those things, we won't get federal reimbursement. That's not a reimbursable meal. And so if you're around our cafeterias, it may be, Robert, you need to go back and get a fruit or get a juice. Well, I don't want one. You got to get it anyway because it's got to be a reimbursable meal. If not, we don't get reimbursed for that, and so you have to pay the a la carte price for that. And sometimes that sounds harsh, and we could debate forever about, well, that's not right because that child may throw that away, but that's the rules in which we play. And to get that federal reimbursement, to get that money to be able to supply food for 65% of our students who are on free and reduced lunch, we depend on that income. Now, yes, are there things we can do to enhance the quality of our food, the appearance of our food? Yes, and I think our child nutrition teams are working on that, and there'll be things that happen this year that hopefully will enhance that. And we're trying some new things. But the fact of the matter is this is a federal lunch program, and those reimbursable meals, that guideline has to be made. So, in theory, I think Mr. Shore said we could serve filet on our meal, and we could charge $12 for that filet, and we could do that. But that's not a reimbursable meal, so you couldn't use free lunch. A student's free lunch couldn't get that. They would have to get this. Now, our work is to make sure that reimbursable meal is as high quality as we can get it. It must meet the guidelines. It must meet the nutritional things. It must include a red orange vegetable. It must, so many times a week. All those things are required in there. But it's important that we understand what a reimbursable meal is and the importance of that reimbursable meal in Cleveland County schools, in which you are, as Mr. Shores, you said, a Tier 1 county, in which you are 65% free and reduced lunch. Those are important things to know. All of our elementary schools and Kings Mountain Intermediate are Title I schools. Those are Title I. We don't have, like a lot of districts, well, these are our Title I school elementary schools, and these are not our Title I schools. All of our schools are Title I at the elementary level. And so those are important facts to remember. We can, we're not opposed, and I know Ms. Currier and our child nutrition team are not opposed to trying new things. She has worked this summer, and I unfortunately I missed the day that they made chicken pot pie. I heard it was great. The people bragged, but I was out of town that day and I missed the chicken pot pie. But I have sampled a few of the other things, and I'll tell you, some of those items are Stephen Fisher and David Pless approved. If you know us, we like to eat, and so those are good meals and good tasting things. So we're excited about the future. We're excited about the things that are to come. But at the same time, we must color within the lines to be able to maximize the opportunities we have for our students. There's a lot of students that we have. Talk about students that are hungry. There's a lot of students in Cleveland County that depend on the breakfast and lunch that our team serve every day. And we know the importance of making sure they have a nutritious meal, and B, that meal is of quality taste. If you haven't done that, and I know a couple of you, I know Mr. Queen and I had a conversation back in the spring about a meal that was in question. You can go and look, and we've got a place on our website. You can click what your child got. You can see the protein, you can see the carbs, you can see the fat, you can see all the nutritional guidelines. And there was one that we were like, oh, this thing. We looked it in like, you know what? That's a pretty nutritional meal. And so those are things that are important. We need to make sure we have appropriate quantities. We need to make sure we have appropriate taste and quality, but we also have to make sure we do that and provide those opportunities for all of our students. What we don't want to create is an opportunity for have and have-nots going through the line. We got this for the folks who can afford it, but if you can't afford it, you have to eat that. That's not appropriate. That's not the way we want to run schools. I'll kind of continue. Again, you guys did a great job of just kind of highlighting a few things, the return to normal processes for breakfast and lunch pricing in many of our schools. We did not. The decision was made last spring. There is no increase in the price of breakfast or lunch. I did mention that this year there's no reduced lunch price. The free and reduced is combined. Why is that combined? It's because of the state funds. The state's made up that difference, but the reimbursable meal comes from federal dollars. We did talk, and you guys did an excellent job of highlighting the CEP and the non-CEP schools, and then free or reduced lunch applications. Mr. Bland, to answer your question is we encourage people to fill that out online. We encourage through orientations to have that information, but the first day we have real access to students that don't come to those things is the first day of school. Students are not turned down a meal. They get to eat on that reimbursable tray line. And then if they qualify, then those charges that go away, and that's taken care of in that. Now, students, don't get to charge a la carte and extras. They can charge on that reimbursable line, which is the traditional line there. So, we've done this for a long time with free and reduced lunch at the beginning. We just want to make sure, from a communication standpoint, that because of COVID, we've not done this. Is not new, but it's not been done in 2 years because of the federal government making sure that everybody ate the free lunch. So, the couple more slides real quickly. I did just kind of want to really quickly go through. We have had a lot of summer projects going on. Appreciate Chip Childers and his team, Dr. Wampler and her leadership. A lot of summer projects going on. Mr. Childers reported to us that I believe that number was over 33 projects. Those projects are scheduled to be completion. If there's a little couple lingering projects, those will be done after hours to make sure they don't impact the start of school. Elizabeth Elementary looks great. I know several of you had the opportunity to go by there. We're ready to rock and roll. I'm excited about the opportunities that are presenting themselves at Elizabeth with the reorganization in Shelby Zone, taking Graham and Marion and going to Elizabeth. I think staff are excited. I think there's a lot of positive energy going at Elizabeth. We do, and I put HVAC projects on at the traditional high schools. I could talk about a lot of projects, but I highlighted this project just because people need to remember that as we go through these projects, there is going to be some inconvenience in our high schools with this project. You can't do a total HVAC renovation over the summer. That's a lot of work to do that, but at the same time, we can't close our schools for 2 years or for a year to do that. So we're going to be doing HVAC renovations during the school year. That means we're going to have modular units out there. That means students' classrooms may be in the modular for 10 weeks and then may come in for 10 weeks. Is that ideal? No, it's not ideal. But having older HVAC systems that we're having some problems with is not ideal either. So once we kind of go through that cycle, that will make some substantial improvements to our high schools. And then the last project I'll mention is the auditorium project at Burns and Crest. And Greg, if you guys and Tim, if you'll wait on that, let me get finished with a slide or two, and then I'll finish with some aerial shots of the projects there. Just a little bit about schedule. Just right around the corner, it's hard to believe that we're starting official practice for our extracurricular activities, our sports, band, all those different types of things will be beginning. So, if you're driving by campus, you'll see a lot of activity on those campuses starting next week. Our school staff and all of our schools except the early college will start to work August 8th. So again, that's right around the corner. I'll also say, and I think Mr. Queen's going to mention this later, that August 8th is our next board meeting, and that board meeting will begin with a work session time with our commissioners, so we're excited about that. August 17th is the first day of school, with the exception of early college, and early college is starting soon. They get August 3rd, so just right around the corner. It seems in some way we just got out of school. It's been a busy, fast-paced summer. It's been a short summer in a lot of ways, but we're ecstatic about what we've got ahead of us. So at this time, I will pause and see if our team in the back can get us some video of the Burns and Crest Auditorium project. I hope this will serve as just kind of an update. I can tell you we've done this, and this, but to be able to see it, see the progression, hopefully make sense to you. conversation this afternoon with Mr. Yarborough. Mr. Yarborough and his team feel comfortable with the contractors and architect about where we are in terms of being ready for school. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of work to be done on those campuses since the end of school. There's work still to be done, but we feel like that we'll have, it's not going to be perfect and in mint condition, and it's definitely not a finished product by the time we start school, but we believe from a traffic standpoint, we'll be able to start school. In your end of the week packet, there'll be some information that we're going ahead and begin working on that shows traffic flow and things like that for parents. So we'll have that for you by the end of the week. So Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions and appreciate the opportunity to provide an update.
Well, you left out one of the best things. We don't have to do a mask vote tonight.
Because
the school year is over with. That only applied to the 21-22 school year, so that's over with. So no more mask vote. And just to be clear, there's no requirement for masking going into the school year.
That is correct. We are as close to, we're pretty much, with school implementation, with school planning, with procedures, those type of things, as close to opening the 2019 school in those school year in those areas that we can be. Obviously, I included a resource guide for COVID and dealing with those things as we begin the school year, but that's really kind of how we ended the school year in terms of there is no masking, there is no quarantine time, there is none of that. There is the caveat there is if you test positive, you can return after 5 days, assuming you're not symptomatic. If you come in that between 6 and 10 day, they recommend a mask at that time coming back. But other than that, you're good to go.
But a student or adult has the option to wear one if they want.
That
but
is
there's
correct.
no requirement.
That is correct.
And that includes buses.
They still have the option.
Okay.
It's not required, but they do have the option to wear a mask.
I thought I saw a hand over here. Mr. Bland?
Yes. Okay. Are we making that clear to our teachers and everybody to let them know that a child does not have to wear a mask if they choose not to wear it? Are we making that announcement in our meetings? Because I have seen it come out by some people that they're expecting a child to come to their room. They're expecting to wear a mask. So I'm wondering, do we need to make that announcement in our teachers' meetings and stuff like that?
I think, Mr. Bland, that was abundantly clear as we finished last year. I didn't have any issues or any concerns with that being addressed last year. So if we've got specific instances, then I think we address those as specific.
All right, I've got two more things. We've had about 25 plus or minus resignations that was voted on tonight. Are they any, as this whole board has spoke up, that, it's hard to find people? Do we need to talk to these people? Can we do something to make it better for them not to put in their resignation and to leave us? What are we doing wrong? Can we ask questions and on that? And the next thing, are we posting our jobs when we hire people? Because I know I felt like there's some jobs that's been put there and we did not post them for other people to put applications in or apply for the job, and then they've been some positions we put in. I'm asking you.
Well, I feel like a little bit answering a run-on sentence there, but I think, Mr. Blanton, in an organization this size, largest employer in Cleveland County, we have people that resign. We have people that have additional opportunities. We have people that go do different things. We have people that decide education is not for them. We have people that go and do things for more money. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of offended that when you say, and I'm offended not just for me, but I'm offended for the 2,000 people that work for us when a resignation is the sign of we did something wrong. Maybe we did something right and somebody needed to resign. And so the assumption that we did something wrong
Dr. Fisher
is not appropriate. That we do know, we do have a survey, we do know why people resign. And I think that if you have questions about resignations, we're glad to talk about that on an individual basis. But, you know, people have the free will to go choose to do something different. And sometimes, you know, unfortunately, you know, I would love for all of our hires to work out and be great hires. We have a wonderful team. But if you compare the data that we present, and it's presented from the state level in terms of teacher turnover, you compare our turnover compared to the industry standard, Cleveland County Schools does exceedingly well, well above expectation in terms of teacher turnover rate and, you know, turnover rate in a classified realm in terms of our resignations. Sometimes you have resignations because, and I'm not drilling on any particular subject. I'm just giving you some case scenarios. But you have somebody that resigns because they can't get a bus license. Well, they have to resign their position. That's no fault of ours. That's nothing that anybody did wrong.
That.
Sometimes you have a thing of the state raised the rates of $15 an hour or 4% raise, which is great. But when you can, you know, and I'm gonna get on my soapbox a little bit, I apologize, but when you can go to, you know, a fast food restaurant and make more than the state pays for, you know, a bus driver, there's a problem with that. And there's a problem with our perception of our, you know, our work with public education. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that we need to be concerned about that. We need to be aware of that. And we're putting things in there to address that.
The posting.
But we can't conquer that one all by ourselves. And that's
I understand that.
And so the second part of your question is about posting. New positions are posted. And you know, I'm not sure of positions that you or others are referring to, but because of the reorganization, we did have people that were assigned new jobs because we combined really, you know, 2 schools into one, and we had some reorganization. So we had some people that had to be placed in positions. So in those kind of situations, you may not have had a job that was posted because you had to have, you know, you've got an employee who you've got to find a job for. So those are things that you have. But our human resources staff, Dr. Wampler, Eric Lamanna, now newly on that team, Dr. Vito Kelly and their entire team really do a good job of making sure we know we serve our employees. We try to find out what we can do for them, but also make sure that those jobs are posted. In addition to posting, we do have district protocols to make sure through the interview process, the number of people that you're interviewing with the team. There's lots of things that we put in place for hiring guidelines for all of our.
Well, I noticed the CTE coordinator. I noticed that was posted, but I didn't notice the food nutrition being posted.
The child nutrition director posted for a long time, Mr. Wayne.
Okay, all right. What is the bus drivers is
Dr.
making
Wampler,
now?
it was probably posted for a couple months. 4 or 5 months. The child nutrition director was posted for 4 or 5 months.
Did we? And we had, okay. How much is the bus drivers making now?
$15 an hour is the minimum rate.
Okay. In other words, it's all the way across the board now.
No, I'm sorry. They're higher already. Yeah.
What now?
For the previously in June, the rate was $14.97. So all of our bus drivers got the 4% because that pay was higher than the $15 an hour. So they're making $15 and some change at the bottom scale.
Okay. And the ones that's already been with us is at that, they got the 4%. Is that right?
All of our bus drivers got 4% because they were the lowest bus salary was $14.97. Okay. So they got the 4%.
Is that substitutes everything?
Is that correct? Yes.
Okay.
I think it's important too that the state mandates how much we can pay a bus driver.
Okay.
There is a range. We do have a minimum and there is a maximum.
Do you know that maximum and that?
Not offhand.
Okay.
Any other questions for
It
Dr.
was
Fisher?
$17 and something, but now, because that was really aggravating to me, we had a bus driver that'd been driving a bus for 20 years, and we wasn't able to give him a raise because the state said we couldn't. That was ridiculous. But anyway, that's another point. That goes back to state and federal governments controlling us.
Okay.
Any other question for Dr. Fisher?
Just to comment, Dr. Fisher, I appreciate your report, especially when you're dealing with personnel. There were a lot of people that we approved tonight for transfers, promotion, and whatnot. And, you know, teaching is a competitive business, and we compete with the surrounding counties for our employees. They choose to come and they choose to go for various reasons. Whether it's a couple of $1,000 supplement that one county pays for more, but we lose good people because other people see good people in our county and they recruit them. We recruit other people also. So that's just the way of business. And teachers, they want to get paid, and we understand that. And of course, we have to pay at state rates, and some counties offer supplements because they get local supplements and they can do a little bit more. But I applaud you on staffing our classrooms. I think HR is doing a good job. Teachers, we try to keep teachers happy by if they're at a school and they think the grass is green on the other side of the fence or somewhere else in the county, they've got the option of going to that school that has a vacancy, and I understand that. And that's also a deadline for them to choose if they want to do that. And with the moving around of personnel, different principals, different places, you're going to have that because some people have a loyalty for certain people, and that's just part of the business. And I just appreciate what you do, and it's not that we're not doing a good job. Some people, they move for whatever reasons, and we just have to keep quality people in the classrooms, and I think you do a good job of doing that.
One other comment. Dr. Fisher, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember reading we had the 7th highest retention rate in North Carolina, don't we?
I believe you're correct, somewhere around in there, yes.
I mean, y'all never blow your own horn about things like that. But I think that's pretty amazing for a county this size, a Title I county, Tier 1 county, that we got the 7th. And we're next door to the big county called South Carolina down there.
Correct.
I know a lot of teachers that retired from North Carolina at 30 years, go to South Carolina, and I believe they get vested in 5 years in South Carolina. And they've retired in 2 states. You can't blame the teachers for doing that. Absolutely not. So I think we do a great job up here with teacher retention.
Any other questions for Dr. Fisher?
Mr. Queen, I just want to echo, I was like Dr. Fisher, I'll get on that soapbox, but I think Mr. Huffers and Coleman did a good job also. I'm proud of the retention that we do here at Cleveland County Schools. That's always been a comment that a lot of people have made over the last several years about when we have people resigning. I don't care what business you have here, you're going to have people resigning. I mean, and I've always been the type that if somebody feels like they need to resign to better themselves, I'm not going to be the person that holds them back, because that is their choice. And we talk about choice all the time. It's about their choice. Like Ms. Humper says, we're leading the state in retention. I say that says a lot about Cleveland County Schools and the type of employees. We also got to remember, some people resign. It's a good thing too. It's a good thing for Cleveland County Schools, a good thing for our students, and it's a good thing for them too. So I'm proud of what we do. I think we hire some of the best people that are available. And I applaud the HR department and our principals, administrators that are finding and locating the people. Like Mr. Hunt said, we recruit and get some from other counties, and they move here too. A lot of people that I've talked to that have left Cleveland County Schools, it ain't long they're talking about, sure wish I was back in Cleveland County Schools. So, I understand dollar talks, but there's more than money in this world too. So I thank you for everything that you do and your staff.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. Let's see. Next, we'll move on to board member comments. Mr. Taylor, you have anything?
No, just
Ms. Green? Mr. Blank?
Well, I wasn't downing nobody for leaving us. I'd just like to know, I'd just like for them to stay. If we're doing something, please bring it out to us that we could correct to keep that quality here, if that's what we've got. Thank you.
Mr. Shores? Mr. Humphries? Mr. Glover?
Not at this time.
Mr. Hunt?
Just one other comment. I'm talking tonight.
That's fine.
Had the opportunity to visit Elizabeth Elementary
steal all
School.
my thunder.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I beat you. But I just had a wonderful visit with the principal over there, Miss Pagan. She took me on a quick tour to show me some of the renovations. You know, she was excited about that new pre-K wing, and she had a lot of folk over there during the summer came in voluntarily to get the place up to speed, to get ready for licensure. And they were volunteering their time and making things look good. And they made some good changes over in the old part. And I think they're going to be ready. And I think people are going to really love the new Elizabeth Elementary School. I really do.
Mr. Fitch? Well, I'm going to tag team with Mr. Hunt. I got to visit Elizabeth last Thursday, and I think Miss Pagan might have a little bit of Sergeant Major blood in her because she had that place hopping. Folks working everywhere. There were high school students that volunteered, some Gardner-Webb students that volunteered. They were hauling trash, moving boxes the whole time I was there. I want to give a special shout out to the custodial staff and the way that school looks. The floors are shining, it's clean. They have really done a job over there. The maintenance team, the Elizabeth staff, the pre-K folks, and the technology team, everybody was working. There was an excitement in the air. The inside's been painted. It looks good. It's got some school colors. There's nice murals on the wall. So I think folks that don't get to go to Elizabeth might be a little jealous. So I think Elizabeth is going to be the place to be. So hats off to those folks. We know a lot of work has gone on at James Love and Jefferson and Shelby Middle as part of this move too. And our maintenance folks have really done a good job planning those moves. So thank you for what you do. All that work by everybody this summer, it's been noticed and it's been appreciated. It is appreciated. So we do have one small item for closed session. Mr. Shores, do you have a motion?
Yes, sir. Pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11, subsection A1, I move that we go into closed session to conduct a student transfer hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitch. Any discussion? Those in favor, if you raise your hand. That carries 9-0. We'll adjourn to the conference room.